Bain Company are a global leading consultancy working within the aerospace and defense industry, an industry that's facing a great many challenges at the moment. But I'm delighted to be joined by Massimo Sabella here from Bain Company to tell us a little bit more. Massimo, it's great to have you here. What can you tell us from your unique point of view about the current state of the industry, and what are your clients most focused on at the moment?
First of all, thank you for having me, Bain. So the aerospace and defense industry is facing several dynamics. The most important and obvious one is clearly the scale up. There is a huge, in some cases, unprecedented surge in demand. This is clear in the commercial side of the industry, in the commercial aerospace, where there is strong demand and the industry is still incapable to deliver the right amount of aircraft. And this is creating an aging in the commercial fleet in service. But if we take the defense side of industry, the demand is simply unprecedented. We are forecasting a market increase which is north of 20% per year in the next few years, particularly in Europe. And of course, this surge in demand is happening while the industry is facing talent scarcity, is facing technological disruption, and still face supply chain bottlenecks.
That's the overarching view from Bain Company, but what about the specifics? Kajzer-Hughes has written the article, Beyond Program Management, a Bold Fix for Aerospace and Defense Programs, and we're delighted to have us here to tell us a little bit more. So Kat, your article argues that traditional program management methods are no longer sufficient. What are the biggest flaws with the old model?
Our article talks about three big flaws we see as part of traditional program management methods. The first is that programs are often overscoped and over-engineered. So the requirements exceed what's actually needed to deliver the purpose of the product. The engineering is over-delivered versus the requirements that are there. And it's not designed to value early enough in the process. So design engineering isn't linked with production engineering and with procurement right up front, so that you can make sure it's being designed not just for engineering purpose, but also for deliverability. Second, there's a lack of transparency. So up front, budgets and schedules are done without proper understanding of the drivers, so choices that need to be made early on are pushed down the line. There isn't enough transparency through the process of how performance is really going, and anyone who's worked in a defense program will be very familiar with the concept of watermelon green, where milestones are green until the day they're due to be delivered, and then they turn red. And the third, and I think the most fundamental, is that program management becomes process-focused rather than outcome-focused. Processes are done because they need to be done as a process, not because they're delivering value. Functions end up working in functional silos for the sake of engineering excellence or procurement and supply chain excellence, not thinking about how those things come together to deliver value to the program.
It seems like quite a lot of big problems with the old model. What would you say a bold fix looks like then in practice?
So in practice, first, I think you have to zero base your strategy. You have to make sure you're only doing the work that's required to deliver the purpose of the product, going right back upstream to engineering in some cases. And you have to make sure that you're only adhering to processes that are really required. Often people are doing things just because they've done it before, or they've incrementally added, and you've got to strip that back and make sure you're only doing things that are essential. Second, you've got to lead with the program outcome, not the function. So you've got to make sure that everything you're doing is really clearly linked to how is it going to drive improved productivity or improved performance of the actual outcome of the program, not of a function in isolation. And third, you've got to make sure you've got the right data and the rigorous analytics to really understand the root causes and to really understand how the program is going and make the right management and operational decisions as you go.
This makes perfect sense to me, but what advice would you give to any business leaders that are struggling with delays or overspend? What's the biggest thing they can do to start turning it around?
I think the biggest thing that people can do is take an outcome-back perspective in everything that they do. Stop your teams thinking process forward, function forward, and go back to what is actually driving the outcome you're trying to deliver. If you don't have the data that makes you understand that, build that indisputable baseline so that you do have that transparency and you can make the right choices up front rather than pushing them down the line. If you don't have the engagement with the front line to understand what's really going to help drive their performance, bring them into it. And if you think you're doing work or processes that aren't directly contributing to that outcome, try and strip them back.